Anybody ever have that problem? You have no clue what they can afford to buy? And they haven't been to a lender yet? This is how we're going to be able to tell exactly what they can afford to buy if they give you the appropriate information. Sorry, Ernesto, I walk a lot. On line 2, we're going to get their gross monthly income. So we're going to divide line 1 by 12. And that number should be $10,000 on line 2. Okay? The federal government has a standard for how much money they will lend you for debt when you're buying a home. That number is usually between 36 to 41%. When I'm working with a buyer, I always use 36%, the lowest number possible, so that I have the lowest amount that they can afford to buy. Does that make sense to everybody?
How do you call that one again? Federal what? Federal.
Don't worry about it. What I want you to do is multiply line 2 by 0.36 and put it on line 3. What does everybody get for that? Get your phones out and use a calculator. 36%, 0.36.
What was it on number 2, the number again?
It was 120 divided by 12. 120,000 divided by 12 is $10,000 a month income. And we're going to multiply that by 0.36, which would give us $3,600 a month. Does everybody agree on that? Okay. Line 4 is going to be their debt obligations. Everybody look at me. That would be car payments, student loans, credit card payments, and health insurance, child support. So for this exercise, we're saying that that number is $600 a month. So you're going to put $600 on line 4. This is actually a sheet I filled out for a client last week. So this is why we're using this sheet, okay? And this is how I showed them what they could afford to buy. That leaves us $3,000 on line 5. Does everybody have $3,000 on line 5? The government allows 80% of the monthly housing expenses to be used towards principal and interest. So you are going to multiply $3,000 times 0.80. Who wants to tell me what would go on line 6? Who did the math? 2,400 is correct. Okay, now listen really carefully, okay? We're going to assume the interest rate is 7%, because that usually will cover us. So when I do the exercise, I assume the interest rate is 7%, and the cost of an interest rate at 7% is 6.65 per thousand. So we're going to divide 2,400 divided by 6.65, and then we're going to take that number and multiply it by 1,000, and that gives us 360,000 on line 7. You're going to get the formula. I'm showing you how to work it while we're printing documents, okay? And then if you take 360,000 and you divide it by 0.80, that's assuming they put 20% down, it's going to tell you that this customer that makes $120,000 a year with $600 of debt per month can afford a $450,000 home. Anybody find this might be valuable to them when working with buyers? This is a really great tool. It gives you all the explanations on the form, and each one of you will have one of these forms in your buyer packet. Okay? Here's the thing. If you can demonstrate that you have this much knowledge, and it's not hard because it tells you step by step exactly what to do, but I give you the example so that you can play with it, because not everybody's good at math. And sometimes if you mess up the way you divide or multiply, it changes the equation. So I give it to you like this so that you can go back and work it until you're comfortable so that you can present it to a customer. All we're going to try to do, right, is a really good buyer appointment. So here's the thing. How many of you have listed homes in the past? Raise your hands. Listed a home, okay? How many of you listed those homes without a listing agreement? None of you. Seriously, we took listings and we didn't have a listing agreement. How many of you have sold homes to a buyer? How many of you have sold homes to a buyer without a buyer listing agreement? Put your hands up. Okay, the federal government has done you a favor. You might think it's a curse. I'm going to tell you they've done you a favor. Here's the favor they did. They are showing you that you are a professional in the real estate business, and we're going to learn how to professionally deliver a contract that people are losing sleep over. And I don't know, the first time I saw it was 31 years ago, and it hasn't changed very much. It still tells the buyer they have to work with you, only with you, and they have to pay you whatever fee you put on that piece of paper. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're putting 2 or 2.5% on that piece of paper, you're shooting yourself in the foot and you're taking money off your family's plate. And I'm going to explain it to you why I want you to do it a certain way. Well, I'm going to help you understand why to do it a certain way. Okay? So, who doesn't have a packet? Okay? Is a buddy at your table got a packet that you can look at so we can get started, because this might take a while? Okay? And I need one person to volunteer to role play this presentation with me. Don't make me ask you. Just somebody please volunteer to sit here and role play being a buyer so I can talk to you. Rosa, will you do it?
Yeah, I do it for you.
Perfect. Just sit right there.
One hand for Rosa.
One hand for Rosa. Thank you, Rosa. Okay. The very first sheet in this packet, it says buyer survey. Okay? And it's got a list of questions on it. This sheet is not used during the buyer presentation. Why is it taped to the front of the packet? How many of you speak to 90% of the buyers on the phone prior to meeting them in person? Show hands. Before you ever meet them, unless you already know them, you probably spoke to them on the phone first, right? Yeah. So I have these when I'm actively selling real estate. I have about 20 of these packets already made up and printed in a folder so that when I get a call from a buyer on the phone that's interested in buying homes with me, I pull it out and this is the very first page. These are the questions I ask the buyer on the phone before I ever meet with them. Okay? And I have the paper attached to the presentation so that this goes in the file until I physically meet them in person. Or I show them a home via Zoom or FaceTime or however I'm going to do it, right? And what am I asking? Their names, their email address, their phone number, where they currently live, right? How did they find my name? Why do I ask them that question? Anybody? Dave? Why do I ask them that question?
The source where it came from.
I'm buying leads, right? If I'm buying leads, I want to know where my money's working, right? Did they come from a friend? If they come from a friend, the conversation usually says, hey, are you Cindy? Joe Black told me to give you a call. He said you sold his house last year, and I should talk to you, okay? What I want to know is, did they come from Realtor.com? Did they come from a Facebook lead? Did they come from Google pay-per-click? Because on my team that I no longer have, because teaching is what retirement looks like for me, okay? I spent $12,000 a month on leads. That's a lot of money, right? So here's the thing. I want to hold my money accountable for results. And the only way I can get results is if I ask the silly question, how'd you hear about me? And everybody on my team asked the same question. Because if they wanted my leads, I need to know where the source came from. And here's what I figured out. When Zillow started making the switch, I was spending about $9,800 a month to get, I don't know, 200 leads a month. And then I was getting 30 leads a month for the same $9,800, and I quit buying Zillow leads. And I put my money somewhere else. Well, Zillow changed the way they were doing business, and they became a brokerage, and we were competing with them. Okay? And then they went to preferred agents, and so it was very hard to get good leads out of Zillow. But Zillow used to be my #1 lead source. So that's what this first page is for. Okay, how many people are missing a buyer packet now? All right, we still got a few. Okay, we're working fast and furious over there.
We had a paper jam and it all got
I-
screwed up and everything.
Redo it? Thank you, Chelsea. You're the best. All right, so we're going to go to page 1. Rosa has come in to meet with me. And Chelsea, can I do a favor and move you to Rosa's seat and put Rosa here? That way I don't have to sit down. I want to be able to talk to her, but I want to show you how I do it. Okay, you don't need this.
Oh, I don't need any of this one. Okay,
Okay?
sorry.
You got a pen? You need to have a pen.
Oh, yes, I have a pen.
All right. You're going to sit right here. We're going to put Chelsea over here. Okay? She's going to come sit with you. Do you need your glasses? Do you need to be able to see? Okay?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Rosa, I am so happy that you came to visit me today. I'm Cindy. It's so nice to finally meet you. We've spent so much time talking on the phone.
That's nice. Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. How was your flight in?
Was very good.
Was good. And you're coming from New Jersey. Is that what you told me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And how long did you live in the New Jersey area?
Around like 10 years.
Around 10 years? So what I like to do prior to taking a buyer out when you're making such a big decision in your life is I like to bring you into the office. I like to sit down. I like to have a conversation. And that way you can decide if I'm going to be a good fit for you, and I can decide if you're going to be a good fit for me. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's get started. Okay? So what I've given you is a home buyer packet. And I'm just going to go through the packet. I'm going to explain it to you, how the system works, how I like to work with my clients. And that way you can answer and give me any questions as we go along. Does that sound fair?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is whether you are an A buyer, a B buyer, or a C buyer. In my world, let me explain to you what that means, okay? An A buyer is a buyer that's ready to buy today. In other words, you're either a cash buyer and you've given me proof of funds that say you're ready to buy a home, or you've already been to see a lender and you know exactly what you can afford.
Okay.
Okay? A B buyer is someone that's ready to buy today, but they haven't been to see a lender yet, and I'll help them make that decision in order to get started, okay? And a C buyer is someone that's here for the very first time. They're just getting started, and they're not really sure when they're going to buy. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what I'd like to tell you is that I'm a very busy agent, and I give the majority of my time to A buyers and B buyers. Does that sound fair?
Okay, sure.
Great. Can I get you to sign this for me? That I've explained to you, the A, B, or C buyer. And so can you tell me, do you know where you fall on this sheet? Are you paying cash, Rosa?
No, I don't pay cash. I would say I am not even ready yet. I don't even be qualified
Okay,
yet.
okay, so you haven't been qualified yet. But if we found the right home, would you want to buy it this trip?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Then
Oh,
you're
maybe, yeah, depends. Then find my whole, but everything I'm looking for.
okay. If you can find everything you're looking for, that's outstanding. Can you sign that for me? Now, I'm going to have her sign every bloody one of these pieces of paper, because by the time I get to the buyer-broker agreement, she's going to sign it without blinking an eye. Okay?
There's your trick.
If you get them used to signing paperwork as you explain the process to them, when you get to the contract, they sign it without ever saying boo. I'm not going to explain the law. I'm not going to explain the change. I'm not going to tell them, oh, you got to do things differently. You're just giving them a reason to not hire you. Stop it. Okay? Have you ever seen, anybody ever seen the Bob Newhart video, the Stop It, or I'll bury you alive in a box? Oh, God, we're going to show it. Don't worry. We'll get there. The second sheet is the financing worksheet that's in your packet. Rosa, if you decide to work with me, I'll be able to sit with you and go through this financial sheet and show you exactly how to be qualified to buy a home. Does that sound fair?
That sounds fair.
Can you initial that for me so that you know that I've shown it to you?
Sure.
Outstanding. I appreciate you.
Now, this is blinds, okay?
Huh?
This is the blind page. Still gonna...
That's the blank page. That's exactly right. Because you haven't signed a buyer-broker agreement, and I can't discuss finances with you legally under the new law.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Just like going to a seller's house. I can't negotiate prices and conditions on their house without having a listing agreement signed.
Okay.
Okay?
Fair enough.
So I'm explaining to you that if we decide to work together, then I'll be able to go through that exercise with you.
Okay, cool.
And you'll leave here today knowing exactly what your family can buy.
Oh, nice.
Does that sound fair?
I like that one.
Perfect. The other thing I'd like to explain to you is that in the state of Florida, we have brokerage laws. And in my company, we work as a transaction broker. And what that means to you and your family is that we have to treat you with respect, dignity, confidentiality, disclose all material and known facts, and do it with great confidence and skill and care for your family. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you sign there for me, please? Thank you. Appreciate it. When's the last time you bought a home, Rosa?
10 years ago when I moved to New York.
10 years ago when you moved to New York. So one of the things I like to do is I like to give you a flow chart that explains the buying process to you so that you understand all the work that goes on behind the scenes once you've made a decision to purchase a home. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is you're going to find a realtor that you can work with, okay? We're going to look at your situation, we're going to analyze it, and we're going to decide what's the best options for your family, okay? We're going to obtain a pre-qualification or proof of funds from a lender. We're going to select properties. We're going to go out and view those properties. Then you're going to write an offer, okay? That's when the real work begins. So on your behalf, my staff and we're going to collect an earnest deposit. That's going to go to the title company that will prepare the closing. Do you remember going to a title company the last time you bought a home?
Yes.
And somebody else closed the property for you and they held your money, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to do that again. That's called an earnest deposit. It's a good faith deposit that you intend on buying the home from the seller. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to negotiate the offer. We're going to get it accepted, and then we're going to do a whole house inspection. When we do that whole house inspection, we might find that there are repairs that your family's not willing to make to purchase the home. That's when I go to work and I negotiate those repairs for you and your family. We get them taken care of and then we can move on. Does that make sense?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
What about when the last time I bought my house, then has a document say as is. So did you gonna negotiate with something say like as is?
No, we're going to discuss that, okay? I'm going to actually show you a purchase contract and we're going to discuss. Here's the difference between a regular contract and an as-is contract. An as-is contract, a lot of times in a seller's market, when there might be 50 buyers for 2 homes, we would use an as-is contract because we know the seller's probably not going to make any repairs because they're going to get a lot of offers. And it gives us the right to buy the home, and if there's anything wrong with it, you can walk for no reason.
Okay, but if the contract say as is on the the request for the buyer, we still can change that one?
You can always ask for repairs, even if you use an as-is contract.
Okay.
Okay?
That's good to know.
The fallacy is that you can't, and that's not true. The as-is contract protects you, the buyer, so that if there's a major issue, you can walk away from the deal.
I like that.
Okay? For example, in Columbus, Ohio, I had a lot of Muslim families that I did business with. And we might put the property in contract and then find out that the house is not suitable for the religion and how they pray 2 or 3 times a day, right? And that as-is contract would allow us to get out of the contract if they couldn't find a suitable room inside the house because it has to be facing a certain direction and get certain light at a certain time of day. Okay? And you can only really tell that during the inspection period. And so I learned to use an as-is contract over 25 years ago to protect my clients as to whether they could pray in their home or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Good
so
to know.
it doesn't always have to be a repair issue.
Okay.
Okay.
I know. Yes, thank you.
Can you initial that page for me? Thank you so much. Now I'd just like to get to know you a little bit better,
Yes.
okay? So I'm going to have a conversation with you, okay? So can you tell me, what do you do with your free time, Rosa?
I actually like to go to the park, like ice skating.
Ice
bowling,
skating, boating, fishing.
fishing.
I grew
All the
up,
time.
my family has had a house on the lake for over 30 years. I absolutely love to wake up in the morning, walk down to the dock, dangle my feet in the water, and drink my coffee, okay? Guys, I've given you pages of questions to ask, okay? Why do you think we're doing this? These 3 pages. Rapport. I want you to write this down. Ford. F-O-R-D. Okay, Ford. These questions are meant to build commonality, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. That's what I'm going to talk to her about. Her family, her occupation, her recreations, and her dreams, so that I can find out if we have anything in common to build a friendship. Because people like to work with people they have something in common with. Makes sense? It's a real simple concept. I'm an old school agent. I do old school business. But guess what? I do a lot of old school business because I build rapport with people. I ask about their children. I ask about their family members. I ask about whether they golf. Do they worship? What kind of religion do they like? How often do they go if it's important to them? How many people will be making this move for you? Will it be a first home or a second home or a third or fourth home? Will you use it for investment purposes, right? So in this area, not so much in Cape Coral, but in Naples, 90% of the homes are seasonally owned. I want you to hear me. 90% of the homes are seasonally owned, right? Ben, you live in Naples, East Naples. We met this morning. How many of your neighbors live there year-round? Maybe 20 to 30%, okay? Most of the homes in Naples are a second home or an investment property. They may come for one stinking week a year. That house sits vacant the rest of the year. And it could be a $2, $3, $4 million house. That's just the reality of the market. The Cape Coral market, the Fort Myers market, the Lehigh Acres market is a little different, right? It's affordable housing for the people that live and work in the community. It's also affordable housing for people that want a second home, that aren't on the super wealthy scale. They're just on the I did okay scale, right? A lot of us are in that bucket. I did okay. And I could afford a second home if somebody else was paying for it when I wasn't there, right? So I ask a lot of questions. Tell me what's important to you about this move. Why are you making the move, Rosa?
I have a new job offer, so I'm moving for a better for a company who need to expand, and they need my expertise to help them to
That's awesome.
grow.
Are they going to?
Oh, sorry, let me slow down. Sorry.
Yep,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. Put it on Do Not Disturb or turn off the ringer.
Let me turn that one off.
All right, no
So,
problem. So let me ask you a question. Will your company be paying any of your moving costs?
Yes, they will.
Yes. What are they going to pay for? They're going to pay for any closing costs? Are they going to give you any
Everything,
extra money?
everything.
They're going to pay for everything.
Everything.
Outstanding. That's great to know. Okay. Do you have people that are going to help you make the move?
No, only my family, my husband and I, and my kids.
Okay, great. And what price range do you think you have in mind for this move?
And I would say at this moment, let's go and say for 450 to 5.
450 to 500,000? Okay, great. And where's your office going to be located? Do you know?
They would be by Cleveland Avenue.
By Cleveland Avenue in Fort Myers?
Yes.
Okay, and how far do you like to travel to get to work in the day? Do you need to go into the office?
Yes.
Okay, and what's a good commute time for you?
Maybe 30 minutes to 40, 30 minutes to 35.
30 to 35 minutes. Okay, so this area might be a little different from the rural area that you come from in New Jersey. And so it can take 30 to 35 minutes to go 6 miles here, especially if you have to go across one of the bridges. Okay? So we'll try to look for homes within a 10-mile radius of your workplace. Does that sound reasonable?
That would be,
And then if we can't find something there, then we'll move out a little bit.
okay.
Okay? Okay, perfect. And how would you feel if we found the perfect home the first time out?
I would be ready to buy.
You'd be ready to buy. That's outstanding. Okay, so this next sheet, I get her to sign it at the bottom of the page. This is my favorite stinking sheet in the whole packet. It says my 5 must-haves. Okay? Rosa, can you do me a favor? Can you list for me the 5 most important things that you need in a house on that piece of paper, please? And tell me what they are as you're writing them down. What's the first one say?
Closets.
Okay, it says big closets. No, hang on. Big closets. Because I'm going to be writing them down, but I'm having you write them so I can teach. Okay? Big closets. Now, Carlos, what does a big closet look like to you?
10 by 10.
10 by 10.
Or walk-in closet.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
you listen, I'll teach.
Okay, I got it.
Okay? Chelsea, what does a big closet look like to you?
It has a center island with lots of storage. On the sides have lots of storage on the outside as well.
Okay. Everybody's description of a big closet is going to be different. Like when I bought my house and we were moving in, and my daughter was 12, and I was moving in while the kids were in Florida with their dad for the summer. And she said to me, Mom, I want a really cool bedroom. I don't know what a flippin' really cool bedroom looks like to a 12-year-old. So here's the question you have to ask. Rosa, what does a really big closet look like to you?
I need a closet with walk-in closet I can walk through. I will have maybe an island also in the middle. The bathroom, maybe a closet with a bathroom inside there, and the whole.
So you want it to be like part of your bathroom, a big, massive room?
Yes.
The bigger, the better?
Yes.
Perfect. Do you want to share your closet with your significant other?
No, really.
No, she doesn't want to share it. That means there has to be 2 closets, or he has to go to the spare bedroom, right? I'm assuming it's a he, and I shouldn't do that. That's why I said significant other until she tells me that she's married with a spouse in their name, okay? That's a oops that you can't recover from. And why do I tell you? Because oops, I've never recovered from that sometimes, right? Now, Rosa, what's second on your list?
I need at least 3-car garage.
A 3-car garage. What's next?
I need a pool with spa.
You need a pool with a spa, so with a hot tub, okay? What else?
I need a big loft so I can put a movie theater.
A big lot so you can put in a movie theater. What does a big lot look like to you?
Maybe something, I would say 18 by 18, 18 by 20, so I can be able to have the area for.
Okay, so a quarter acre.
No quarter, okay, 18 by 18 square foot inside the room. It's like a big room, like master bedroom, to be able to get.
Oh, you want a big room, not lot, okay.
No, loft, a loft.
Loft.
Loft. Inside, a little extra room, like a den or something like that, so I can use it for a movie theater, game.
Okay, so you want like an extra room.
Like game room or something like that.
Okay, perfect. And what's your 5th thing?
The master bedroom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know, right? The master bedroom need to be big. We also with a walk-in shower and also a regular tub.
So a separate tub and shower.
Yes.
And a big space. Okay, great. So you and I are going to have an agreement, okay? If you want to add anything to this list, you must take something off, okay? Because the reality is there are going to be no perfect homes in your price range. Okay, and so I like to set the expectation up front that there may be 5 things that you really want, and then if you want to add an extra one, we got to let one of the other ones go. Okay? Can you sign that for me? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay? Now, I have a sheet of paper, and I'm going to read this to you, okay? And it's called the 10 Commandments for a Buyer. Okay? Because you're going to be getting a mortgage to buy this home, correct?
Oh, half and half.
Okay, but you still need a loan. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I would say yes.
Okay. Thou shalt not change jobs between now and closing. Thou shalt not buy a car or a truck or a minivan. Okay. Thou shalt not use a single credit card between now and closing. Okay. Thou shalt not spend money that you've set aside to go to closing. Okay. You shall not omit any debts or liabilities on your application for your mortgage. You shall not go buy furniture to put in the new home until we've closed on the home, okay? You shall not originate any inquiries into your credit. So if you're thinking about buying a new car to put in that pretty new home, wait until we're finished with buying the home, okay? You're not going to change bank accounts, and you're not going to co-sign on a loan for any of your children. Okay? Because if you do any of those things, it will lower the amount of money you have available to spend on your home. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can you sign that for me, please? Thank you. It's an important one. If you don't tell them, they don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And here's what they do. You get 2 days before a closing, and guys, I've had this happen so many times that I created this piece of paper. Okay? It's happened so many times where they say, well, all I did was go out and buy new furniture to put in the house. I didn't have a bed to sleep in. You remember that conversation we had about buying things prior to closing? They can't afford to buy the house anymore. Then they don't get to close. No house. And oh, wait a minute. They already sold the other house to buy the new house. Now they're homeless. It happens. And it happens all the time.
And they buy a car.
It's our job to have this conversation with them because they're not in the business. They don't think about that. All I did was go get a car. I already had a car. Yeah, but you opened up a new line of credit. And new credit is scored at a higher ratio than old credit is scored. Because what we know is if you've got a car payment and it's most of them are 5 years and you're 4 years into it, they are not going to count that car payment against your debt to income ratio. Right? But if you buy a new car, and it's a 5-year debt, they're going to include it. And a $500 car payment can keep you from affording to be able to buy the home of your dreams. Okay? So no debt, no using a credit card, no changing jobs, no changing your bank accounts, and stinking don't go buy furniture with money you don't have, right? Okay. If you decide to work with my company, these are all of the things that we're going to do on your behalf. And this would be my company. So once they get your paperwork, they're going to ensure that everything's recorded properly, it's taken care of. They're going to do all the bookkeeping. And my company charges a fee of $299 for that service. And I just need you to sign right there that I've disclosed that to you. And I usually highlight it, guys. And I have them sign it. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay, so when we go to buy a home, we're going to use a residential contract to do it. And this is what it looks like. And I just always give them a copy so they know what they're going to be signing, because 86% of people, write this number down, it's really important. What do 86% of people hate, Chelsea?
Change.
They hate change. Okay? 86% of people hate change. You ever met that person? If you went into Liz's office, she is the kindest, loveliest person in this office. Always has a smile. But if you go into that nice lady's office and you move the things around on her desk, she might be a little irritated with you, right? She's laughing in there because she doesn't like change and she likes her stuff where she leaves it. Exactly.
What she said.
Okay, most people hate change. Now, I'm a freak of nature. I'm the 4% that goes 100 miles an hour with her hair on fire, and I love change. All kinds of change, right? Constant change. I thrive in change, but most people don't. So I always give them the paperwork to read, and I say, this is the contract that we're going to fill out when we go to buy your home. It's prepared by the Florida Bar Association. I am not an attorney. I am not legally allowed by law to write a contract, but I'm allowed to fill in the blanks like every other agent. And I'm also allowed to negotiate on your behalf and I'm an exceptional negotiator, okay? So I like to give you a copy of this so you understand the terms, and so that if you want your attorney to look at it in advance prior to signing it, you can send them a copy of it so they can take a look at it. Here are the things that it covers, okay? It will cover the price of the home. It will cover the terms that you want to buy the home, whether you want to close in 30 days, 90 days, 120 days. It will, if you want the seller to contribute money, that will be covered in this. It will tell you what appliances stay, if furniture stays. It will take care of who pays the taxes, who pays the insurance, and who pays what fees at closing. Does that make sense to you? It also protects you with an inspection period. And it has terms and conditions for the inspection period. And it gives me a way to get you out of the contract if we find something wrong with the home that's not acceptable to you. Okay? It also makes the seller pay off all liens and encumbrances on the property so that when you buy it, you know all their debts paid off and there are no liens on the home. That's all covered in here. Okay? So on the last page, if you could just initial that I've given you a copy of this up front to look at. It's a long contract. It's 10 pages long. But if you'll just initial on this last page, and then you've got this copy to take home and show to your attorney if you'd like to. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. No, ma'am. Okay? Because it's not a contract. It's just that I'm explaining it to you. Okay? And so we've talked, and this is a revision of some of the things we've talked about, right, on the sheet for you, okay? So we've talked about earnest money. That would be the good faith deposit that you make, right? We've talked about we're going to look at the taxes to see how much taxes are because that's going to be part of your house payment. We're going to have a title search done that's covered in this contract that makes sure that the house has no liens against it that haven't been paid. For example, we just had a hurricane 2 years ago. Some people are just getting their roofs replaced. What we do prior to closing is to make sure that new roof was paid for. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's my job to make sure the title company does that on your behalf. Okay? Perfect. We're going to pick a settlement company. We're going to make sure that you get title insurance to cover your mortgage so that if anything happened to you or if there was an unknown claim against the property, your title insurance would cover the claim, kind of like car insurance. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Can you initial that page for me?
If I was trying to get a credit for my buyers at closing, would that go under like the additional terms or would that
Yes, it would go under additional terms.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And we can talk about that when we get to this, okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Perfect question. Your name?
Zach.
Zach. My nephew's name is Zach. All right. Some of the services that you're going to need to do that I would suggest you think about in this is one, we would do a home inspection, okay? And I have several companies that I feel comfortable working with that I would be glad to refer you to, or if you have someone that you like to work with, we can use them as well, okay? You're probably going to want to know an insurance company, and it depends on where you buy. So this is Southwest Florida, and so are you familiar with flood insurance?
Not really.
Not really. Does flood insurance frighten you?
Depend.
It depends. So we are in a coastal community. Fort Myers, Lehigh Acres, and Cape Coral are coastal communities, which means there are large bodies of water, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caloosahatchee River, and all the contributaries that go to it, okay? So there are a lot of areas in this community that are in the flood zone, which require additional insurance. Okay, so it's going to be my job as we visit properties to explain to you if the property's in a flood zone and if you will need additional insurance to protect your mortgage against your home.
Let me ask you a question.
Please.
It's better for me to find a insurance company, or it's better go with the finance company who can help me to find
Well,
that one?
they're-
Who's going to help me to find that one?
I will help you find a good insurance company. A lot of times if you use who the finance company uses, they have a list of one. They call them and your insurance ends up being a lot more than you need to pay. For example, I always like to give an example. If you've got an example, I like to tell you that real estate's about having a toolbox, right? And you need to have tools in your toolbox. And when you need the tool, you need to pull the tool out of the toolbox and use it as an example. So I'm going to give her an example, okay? For example, my ex-husband and I have been divorced for more years than I need to even think about, right? But we own a home together that he's lived in for the past 16 years. And I just moved back into that home. This is a real example. I give real examples, okay? And so he's always handled the mortgage payment. He's always handled the insurance. And he is a very, very busy businessman. And he just lets other people do things, and he doesn't inspect what he expects. Do you understand what I mean by that? So our homeowner's insurance is ridiculously high. And here's the thing, when you have a mortgage, you pay for a 1 year of homeowner's insurance up front. And then every month, the mortgage company collects a little bit each month so that next year when your bill is due, they pay it on your behalf. If you go to them without an insurance company, which he went to them without an insurance company, they choose the insurance. So here's what happened. In February, now my principal and interest payment on my house is only $275, okay? $275. And my taxes and insurance made my payment $1,200 a month. That's my mortgage payment, $1,200 a month. Well, in February, because I moved in January, in February, the house payment went to $2,450 a month. Well, I'm in real estate. That's a 100% increase in the payment. We got put in a flood zone. And he let the mortgage company pick the flood insurance. $1,100 a month for flood insurance on a house that's worth $280,000. You can't make it up. My job's to help that not happen to you, okay? So we have companies that we work with, that we have great relationships with, that work with FEMA, that can get you better pricing, okay? So when we get to that point, that's on this page, it'll remind you.
Okay.
Okay? Can you sign that for me, please, or initial it? Thank you so much.
And you would just put like an agent, like an insurance agent that you.
I always give 3.
You always give 3. Okay.
The law requires 3.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay? So just in case you forget that little thing
Yeah, well, it's always
called the federal law, you must always give at least 3.
Okay.
And then I tell them this is who I use. But here are 2 other companies that also do a great job.
Cool.
Okay?
Perfect.
All right, perfect. Great question. During the process, I'm going to insist that you have a home inspection, okay? Now, there are clients of mine who choose not to do a home inspection. If you choose not to spend the money to do a home inspection, I'm going to ask you to sign a piece of paper that says, refused home inspection, and I'm going to make you sign it, okay? And here's why. Because if you don't have a home inspection, there might be things that we can't see with the naked eye that a home inspector might find. For example, Chelsea just went on a home inspection for me a week ago. And we have a hole in the roof this big when the seller said there was no roof problems. There's no roof problems. I said, really? Because I can see daylight through your roof. Wow. They hadn't been in the home in 6 months. And that was causing water to come in on top of the electrical panel. Wow. Right? If we wouldn't have done a home inspection, we wouldn't have known we had that problem. But we had an electrical panel that has to be replaced. And I was able to get the money to do that. Okay? Now, so that's why we do a home inspection.
Another question.
Yes, please.
So doesn't matter if I pay cash or finance, do I have the choice to make
You always have a choice. You do not have to do a home inspection. But
even finance?
Even if you're financed, a home inspection is not required.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not required.
What about if she decides to buy a new construction?
Well, again, I don't know about you, but I've moved into new homes and had a punch list that lasted 3 stinking years. I always, 100% of the time, I ask my people to do a home inspection, even if it's new, and if they refuse, I have them sign a waiver so that they can't come back and sue me or Ernesto, the broker. Because every piece of business you do is not in your name. It's in this man's name, the broker. If you lose your license, he loses his license. If you get fined, he gets fined. If you go to jail, he goes to jail, right? That's how it works in real estate. I was waiting for a response out of it, right? So when we do an inspection, we're going to look at appliances to make sure they work, right? We're going to make sure the plumbing's in good working condition. We're going to check the electrical. We're going to check the air conditioning and the vents. We're going to check all the windows to make sure they're operational. We'll check all the circuits to make sure they're functional in the house. We're going to check the foundation, the roof, the crawl spaces, and all the general areas of the home. Okay? Can you initial that for me, please? Thank you so much. Okay, so how are you feeling about things right now?
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information.
So I just need to, I didn't know what that many paperwork. For me, it's a surprise. We've been having almost 45 minutes talking about everything we have to do. So it's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information, and here's what I like to do. I like to share that information freely. Okay? Now we're at a point where if you would like to hire me as your agent, then I'm going to need you to fill out this form, okay? Now, guys, I would already have it filled out. I want you to hear me. If you go to a buyer broker appointment with a blank piece of paper, 100% of the time, your fee is negotiable.
More negotiable.
It's negotiable, period. Negotiable. If it's blank, it's negotiable. If it's filled out, I have a chance.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to teach you how to make it whatever you want it to be. Your skill is worth money. Your time away from your family and loved ones is worth consideration and money. If you fill this stinking paperwork at 2% and the seller's offering 3%, are you going to get 3%? No, you're not. Because the buyer's going to say, well, I can get an additional 1% discount. No, I told you you could have me for 2%. Be very cautious with what you do with this paperwork. It matters. Do not be afraid. Hear me. Do not be afraid to ask for what you're worth, because nobody else is going to. You hear me? Nobody else is going to ask for what you're worth, and you only get one shot to do it. So this paperwork, 100% of the time, is already filled out with the client's name, and it says 3% plus the $2.99. Okay? We're not going to go over how to fill this stinking form out today. We did that last week, and we'll do buyer-broker agreement classes continually so that all the new people coming into the business